Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Meg Duncan, Marketing Manager for Object Management Group, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to BPMN in Action. This webinar presentation was originally intended to be a face-to-face meet and greet during the OMG TC meeting in Orlando, but as with so many things lately, we needed to change the format in order to protect the health of our members during this COVID-19 pandemic. And while we regret not being with you in person, we are pleased that by holding this event online, we're able to welcome a much larger audience than originally anticipated. We do hope to have some time for Q&A, and you can submit your questions using the question tab, and we'll get to as many as we can after the demonstration. Before we begin, I'd just like to say a few words about OMG for those who may not be familiar with our organization. OMG is an international, open membership, not-for-profit technology standards consortium. Founded in 1989, OMG standards are driven by vendors, end users, academic institutions, and government agencies. OMG task forces develop enterprise integration standards for a wide range of technologies and an even wider range of industries. This slide shows some of the verticals in which we are active, including finance, defense, retail, robotics, space exploration, healthcare, and government. OMG has over 325 member organizations worldwide, and this slide is just a representative sample to show the mix of end users, vendors, government, and academic institutions. I apologize to any OMG member on the call who may have been omitted. This is intended to be a sample only. A full list of our membership is on our website. In addition to BPMN, which you will be hearing much more about later, here is a slide showing some of OMG's other well-known specifications, including SysML, DDS, UML, Corba. We invite you to learn more about OMG by visiting our website at the URL shown here. If you are interested in learning how you and your company can contribute to standards development, please contact our BD team for more information about membership. Now I am pleased to introduce Denis Gagné, CEO and CTO at Trisotech, longtime OMG member, and chair of the BPMN Model Interchange Working Group. Denis, I'm going to make you the presenter now.
Okay, good day everybody, and welcome to our OMG BPMN Model Interchange Working Group capability demonstration for 2020. We're going to play with technology, so snafus will happen. It's life. So we're doing all this live. So we have many different companies joining us. So for this particular demonstration this year, we have 11 participating vendors. And we're also celebrating the fact that BPMN 2.0 is turning 10 years old this week. So 10 years ago, BPMN was version 2.0 was accepted as a standard. So participating with us today, we have Case Agile, OmniTracker, Eris, Cardinate, BOC, Camunda, VIAD, ITsoft, NoProcess, Signavio, and Trisotech. The whole idea behind the Model Interchange Working Group, the BPMN Model Interchange Working Group, is to exchange models, not just pictures. So the BPMN interchange is made possible via the BPMN specification, and the BPMN specification provides for a standardized notation that most people are familiar with, the actual shapes and their actual semantic, meaning how they behave, how they're structured. And there's also a standardized file format for BPMN interchange. So today we're going to demonstrate how, between various vendors implementing various tools, we can interchange BPMN models between one tool to the other, including the diagrams, but also all the hidden attributes that are part of the model, and that provides us with deeper understanding of what the model is to do. Any software vendor that wishes to join the BPMN Model Interchange Working Group is welcome. It's a free group. You don't have to be an official member of OMG to participate. We welcome everybody to join and improve the interchange of BPMN models. You can find my email at the bottom there. Please contact me if you want to join the model interchange group or the OMG or anybody that is in the group that you will recognize. So what we will be doing today is we will showcase how we can interchange BPMN model by using Dropbox as our central repository. So basically what will happen is one person will start modeling with one tool, a portion of a model, put the half-baked model into Dropbox, then the next vendor will pick up this partial work, augment it with some more work, re-put it back in Dropbox, etc., etc. So we will be not only interchanging complete model, but incomplete model. That's another benefit of the work with the BPMN standard, is that you can interchange partial work. It doesn't have to be a completed artifact. It can be work in progress that you're exchanging between the different people, but not only between the different people, but different people working on different tools. And that's the whole idea of today's demonstration. So this year we decided to be a little bit more imaginative, and we decided to use a business scenario for our demonstration. So we're starting with EU Bank. EU Bank is a fictitious company that hires some consultants to do both the modeling of their job advertising process and their candidate selection process. So for this portion of the work, EU Bank decided to call upon consultants from various BPMN vendor company, including Camunda, Trisotech, ITsoft, Cardinate, No Process, Signavio, and Case Agile. But then EU Bank realized that it could also move on with the digital transformation and follow this big transformation movement that everybody is either suffering through or being popularized by because of the COVID. We're doing a lot of digital transformation. EU Bank decided to do the same and invited some more vendors to do the automated or the automatable version of the candidate selection. And for doing so, it also invited modelers or specialists from companies like Eris, VAD, OmniTracker, and Adonis. So basically what you will see now is a sequence of work in the modeling that we will display. And at the end, we will do a little bit of automation of all these models as well. So in the first portion, you'll see Camunda, Trisotech, and ITsoft complete the job advertising process that you see on the screen. And you see the group around the work that each vendor will be doing. In the second process, which is the manual candidate selection process, you'll have participants from Cardinate, No Process, Signavio, and Case Agile. And for the automatable candidate selection process, we will have a participant from Eris, VAD, OmniTracker, and VOC. So I will now start bringing the different participants into our work, and we'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. So the first person I will invite is Niall. So Niall, if you want to join us, please.
Hello, everybody. Welcome along. I'm here from sunny Berlin. I'm Niall Dehan with Camunda, and I'll be showing you the Kadima web modeler, which is a free-to-use online web modeler that you guys can go and try as well. I'm going to start by clicking on New Diagram, and as part of my process, I need to start with a service task. I can use the simple little context pad here to build it, select the type, and then follow it on with another one as well. Now, obviously, I need some pools for this as well, so I'll just drag a pool in there and then make a lane down the middle. I need to make a little more space because I also need this little guy here. Okay, and I can connect those as well using the context pad. I can also use this guy here to drag stuff out. Okay, and now I should probably add labels, right?
And now in parallel, I'll introduce Gabrielle. Gabrielle is joining us and will be modeling in parallel another portion of the the other process. We see your screen, Gabriel.
Yeah, hello, I'm Gabriele from Cardinit, and I'm going to show you our BPMN DMN modeler tool. As you can see, I just created a new project for our customer UBank inside Cardinit, and I already started working on it. So I added a pool and a couple of nodes, and you can see some attributes that I added here for the nodes. And now let me just the new gateway, which is interesting applicant. And let me reposition this label very quickly and add also a new task, which has to be a user task called check details. And finally, I will just quickly resize these labels. They are a bit too small. And that's it. I'll keep working on it. And back to you, Denis.
Let me introduce Frank now from Aris. We see your screen, Frank. You're muted, Frank.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, my name is Frank. I'm working for Software team. I'm located in Saarbrücken, and today I present you our tool for process management, ARIS. So I have already opened BPMN collaboration diagram and had already placed pool and two lanes, and now I start modeling the process content, and I start by placing a start event, giving a name. Now placing the next element in the process, also entering the name. Setting the task type.
And now I will introduce Simon from Trisotech, who will be continuing on the work from Niall of Camunda.
Hi everyone, my name is Simon from Trisotech. I'm going to show you today the Trisotech workflow modeler to complete, as you mentioned, the work from Neil. I already imported his model through the Dropbox to save a little bit of time. And basically, I will continue the modeling with the next activities in the process, simply creating the next element of the flows and adding some labels as well. And I will also add some new data elements here for the advertisement and continue on like that and pass it to Benjamin afterward.
So as everybody can notice, everybody is using a different tool. The tool smart or the widgets are different from tool to tool, but the diagram elements are all BPMN diagram elements that are standardized across all the different tools. The standards specify the notation, the attributes, and the structure and the behavior of the element, but it's up to vendor to implement the tool smart, what we call the tool smart, which are all the different features around to do that work. And now you have the chance to see different tools doing different work. So now that Gabrielle is done with the coordinate portion, I will invite Tim to continue the work that Gabrielle started.
Hello everybody from the UK. Here is my modeler, and if I pop over here I see Gabrielle's work in Dropbox, so that's good. I can load that one up. That'll be here. Okay, so the next thing on this branch is that we need to set the interview and then it may be that the candidate rejects that or it's not a suitable time. So we will put in a little gateway to say, is it accepted? Yes or no, I guess, would be the answers. So we have a sequence flow going back. And I will continue drawing off the next bits and pieces. So back to you for right now, Denis.
Okay, so Frank just completed his work with the ARIS tool. And now Chris will be joining us from VAD.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris from VAD, coming to you from beautiful Cologne in Germany today, and I'll be modeling in our enterprise BPMN modeler for Confluence, which allows you to model BPMN diagrams directly in Confluence. And to start off, I'll just import Frank's work, like so, yeah, and then I'll continue from there by adding a few more tasks, for example. Let's move that down here. And that should be conducting a phone interview, ideally without typos. Yeah. Another task up here. And maybe we'll need a little bit more space. And we'll give ourselves that like so, and we'll continue modeling until we're done, and then Marianne can take over and finish the process off.
So Simon has completed his work. So now Benjamin from ITsoft will be joining us to complete the first process, which is the job advertising process.
Hello everyone, I am Benjamin, live from Paris, and I will be modeling with ITsoft BPMN Composer. So I'm going to start by importing the model done from by Simon from Trisotech. And I am gonna complete it to allow the process to publish on the on page and on other platforms the advertisement, the job offer. So I'm starting by dropping all the shapes, all my flow elements, and then I'm gonna put the labels inside.
So Tim has just completed his work. So I will now call upon Philip from Signavio to join us.
Hello everyone, just sharing my screen. There we go. Yeah, so I'm coming to you from the lovely Potsdam, Germany today, and I'm showing you Signavio Process Manager. So let me import. All right, loading up the editor, and then doing the rest of the process. Yeah, so we did discover that bug just recently, and we fixed it. All right, now moving on. We have notice that we're automatically extending the pool and lanes here, so very convenient to just keep on modeling a process.
So as Chris completes his work on the applicant process, Marian will join us from OmniTracker.
Hi all, my name is Marian, and I will like to show you today how I model with our tool OmniTracker, and I'm located in Germany, in Bavaria, nearby Nuremberg. So I will start by importing the model from VAD, which was just added right now. So I choose the file and choose the location where it should be imported. And afterwards, I will just navigate to the file and open it. Now I can make some more space within the diagram and start modeling.
So part of the specification of BPMN, or not part of the specification of BPMN, is the usage of colors. BPMN is colorblind for its interchange, but the BPMN Model Interchange Working Group did some work to come to a common understanding between the different vendors that are participating as a way to interchange color as well in diagrams. So we now have, within this group of the model interchange working group, we have the capability of also interchanging color diagram as we move forward.
Denis, I am done with the first process, if you want to.
So Benjamin has completed the first process, so we'll switch to Benjamin to make us go through the first process.
So you can see that the first process is now done. This is the first part of the recruitment process, the write of the job vacancy, the job advertisement, and the post on the EU-BAKE homepage and the selection of other platform like maybe LinkedIn or other platform like that to publish the offer.
And this model was created from Camunda, Trisotech, and IT South, who just completed the work. So now that Chris is done, now that Philip is done with his work, I will now invite Boris to join us for doing some more modeling.
Hello, I'm Boris Zinchenko from KCHL. I will show you how to build BPMN models in Enterprise Composer, which is an extension to Microsoft Azure. So we import processes created by previously MIWG known process and Kadima. So we import this model into Visio.
So now that Marian is done with her work, we will also invite Zbigniew to join into the modeling session. You're muted, Zbigniew.
Hello everyone, my name is Zbigniew. I'm joining from Warsaw, Poland, and today I'll be showing to Denis from BOC Group. So let me start by importing diagram created by Marian. And now I will rename it according to our principles. And it's time to extend it a little bit. So what do we need? Here we have a task agree on applicant. And from the modeling assistant, I can select which task type is it.
So the BPMN spec is a spec that is over 600 pages. So a group like the Model Interchange Working Group for BPMN is needed so that we can make sure that we all have the same interpretation of the specification, of the detail, and that we can resolve any misunderstanding that may be with the technical details, whether it's on the actual visualization, the file format, or the hidden attributes that provide the semantic of behavior and structure. So the group can work together, each vendor bringing in his own interpretation and us resolving whenever there's issue. It's a very easy community to work with. Everybody is participating for the better good of the specification and the interaction in the model. So after we're done with the modeling that we're doing right now, we're going to go into a small automation session where we will have different vendors that will automate the job applicant automated version of the model. So you'll see then different tools doing automation. We'll just give a chance to Boris and Zbigniew to complete their model before we move on to this other part of the demonstration.
My model is done, so I can show the overview.
Please.
So here you can see the complete process starting in online system, which then flows to the recruitment. And here we have various options if there is an assessment additional needed or no. And then we need to agree an applicant, and then we either send acceptance or send rejection.
As a quick reminder, this model was created, the front portion was created with the ARIS tool. The second part was created with VAD, third part with OmniTracker, and then completed by BOC. So we now have 2 of our process completed. At the end of the session, we will be all remaining there for questions. So we're going to have an extended Q&A session. We invite you to already provide questions into the question box. Meg will be moderating the question in the question box. We will also open up the microphones for people that wanted to ask live questions. We'll use the hand raising feature of GoToWebinar. So if you want to ask a verbal question at the end, please use the hand raising feature, and we will try to accommodate as many questions as possible. Those questions that we cannot answer during the session, we will try to answer via email after for any questions that people may have to us. So let me switch back to Boris. And Boris will show us the completed work.
Thank you, Denis. We finished modeling of our part of this diagram, and now we can open diagram in full and see it preview in our another tool, Freeware BPMN Viewer Modelers, where you can see model semantics and all elements of ready model after it's finished.
Okay, thank you, Boris. So what we've just demonstrated is various tool vendors creating iteratively different BPMN models. So the first model was created by Camunda, Trisotech, and ITsoft. The second one by Cardinate, No Process, Signavio, and Case Agile. And the third one by ARIS, VAD, OmniTracker, and VOC. So now EU Bank was quite satisfied with the work it got from the different vendors creating those BPMN model, and they decided that they wanted to move into automation. So they requested from some vendors to get model-specific, platform-specific models that can be executed by different vendors. So the vendors that were invited to showcase those automations were from No Process, Camunda, OmniTracker, Signavio, Trisotech, and VOC. So I will first invite Marian to come and show us the execution from within the OmniTracker tool.
Yeah, thanks, Denis. So now you can see my screen, and within OmniTracker, I would like to show you the end user view of an already automated process. Here you can see that we have a running process instance of the third business scenario, which was started a few hours ago. We can see that the minimum criteria automatically was evaluated, and the application is for a key position. The appointment is set for today, and now the recruitment has the user task to conduct the phone interview. And depending on the decision how the recruitment decides if the applicant is interesting, the process goes on, or if not, the process will end and a rejection will be sent to the applicant. I will now switch to the user interface, contact the phone interview. Here we can see some relevant data, the applicant phone number, and a box to decide if it is an interesting candidate. In our case, unfortunately, it's not an interesting candidate. And if we submit, the process will go on. And we can see in an instance that the rejection was now sent and the applicant is rejected. I will now switch to our outgoing email folder, and there you can see we have an email which was sent right now to the applicant. And in addition, we have all the information about the applicant and also the rejection based on the entered data within our database for revision of the whole process. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Marian. I will now invite Niall to show us the execution from Camunda.
Hello again, everybody. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk about the idea now that we have two different models. We have the original one, and of course, we have a new version of this model that we'd like to improve. We can see the improvements quite easily here because this is a diagram, but we're talking about execution right now, which means things are a little more complicated. It's one thing to see the difference, but what about this lovely person here, named by their parents Demo, who has this lovely task to do? They are, of course, at this point of the process, which is in version 1. And how do we make sure that we can move this live running process onto the new version with minimal fuss? Well, we go to our admin panel, which is called Cockpit, with which you can get as part of Camunda, and we can see that's where the living instance is right now. Now, luckily, we also have version 2 deployed, and we can select it right there. And this is the new version. Now, there's no instances running right now, so to fix that, I'm going to click this incredibly lovely little arrow down there. There we go. And this is going to show both versions of the process, the old version, the new version, and also generate a migrate plan. So for instance, I can say, okay, well, where is this one going? It's going right over there. Okay, now I trust this automation. If I wanted to, I could create my own migration plan, but I'll just click a bunch of nexts, do it synchronously. Okay, great, that's done. So that means that now in my view, I now have my process here, but more importantly, the user themselves who was on this lovely process, if I click on this one more time, are now right here in this one. So now if I, for instance, why is this candidate interesting? Lots of hair. Denis, I'm looking in your direction. And I'm going to click OK. And that process is continued, and it's specifically continued on the new version. There we go.
Thank you very much, Niall. EU Bank will now want to see Tim show us the no process automation.
Hello, back in the UK. So here I've uploaded the finished model, and there's a bunch of things that are incomplete about this because this was just the modeling exercise. So I can see, it looks like I've made some changes. So there's a couple of extra bits and pieces different. I've added some resources. We can assign those. We can work on conditions that will determine how the process, implementation details of the process, if you like. Well, so far, so good. Well, what I wanted to do is to talk about a little bit of the work that we've done in the UK recently. The government has their own design system. It's very important that we comply with this. Lots of usability testing is done to decide what should and should not be part of this design system. And so here is our task application, which we've built using that styling. I don't know what these tasks are that I've got knocking around from previously, but if I pop over to start some new work, we'll see the EU Bank application which I've uploaded, and if I click start, then we see the sorts of pieces of information that needed to be provided to make an application for that job. And as I say, all styled within the design system that the user is looking for. Back to you, Denis.
Thank you, Tim. I'll now invite Philip from Signavio to join us and show us the execution in the Signavio tools.
All right, so I'm going to show you how easy it actually is to get a process executed in the Signavio Workflow Accelerator. For that purpose, I'm just going to import this BPMN file that we have here into Workflow Accelerator. That worked quite nicely. So let's just scroll down, find it down here. Just a few steps that need to be done, right? You need to decide how you actually want to start your process. You can do it when an email comes or with some other integrations. We're just going to go for a form that you need to submit. And then you essentially just start typing in. You need some free text for the position to be applied to. You need a user who's actually applying, and you probably also want to have some file to upload, for example, for the team. All right, and that's already it. We have the form ready with which we can start our process. Next are the actions. This is taking slightly more than the 2 minutes that I have allotted for this meeting, so I'm just going to show you a prepared version. But all I did was essentially just clicking on those tasks, saying that I want to reuse this form in the first task where we can review the application, and then either say proceed or reject. Then on the gateway you can choose where does it take you when you click on proceed, which is you check the next check, or reject. We then go to write the rejection. And this is actually then the first small automation you can do, where we just have an email task where you say, okay, you send it to the candidate so you can reuse those form fields that we've created. Have a subject where that mentions the position. Have all the automation automatically fill in this email so it really doesn't look like it is automated too much. And with that, you can already start the first version of your process. So we have, let's say, process owner, we have a demo user, and we have a CV. And we start our case, and there we have the first task, right? So we can look at that thing here, process owner, look at the CV, do whatever we need to do. I take this task now, saying I'll execute it. In this case, we'll just reject the user because that's the only thing I showed you. So we can now look at the case and see that the email has been sent out directly. We have a new email up here, which is showing us directly exactly what we just configured in workflow. So usually, very first simple processes can get executed within 5 minutes. That's how easy it is to get things automated in the Signavio Workflow Accelerator.
Thank you very much, Philip. Now we'll move to Zbigniew, who will show us the BOC execution.
Hello again. So I will show you the execution in Adonis, but before that I want to show you how easy it is to make a quick assessment of your processes to see which processes are a good fit for automation. So I can select several processes and then run a quick query to show which processes are best for the automation. As we would expect, our process that we are using in this demo is the best one, so we focus on this one. So I move to my process, and then it is extended with additional information. So it is extended with technical attributes, no coding style, so that I can automate it. So I could start to run it in our platform from our partner, and then you can also see that this process is enhanced with additional information like roles, risks, and so on. I already created running process, so you can see that this is our process, and here I can complete it, and on the basis of the process, it can flow one way or another. On the basis of what is happening in real life, I can go to the insight, which are one-stop shop for my process, which show all the information that I need, which show how does my process fit the overall architecture, what is happening real time, as well as roles, documents, applications, health state of my process, but also risks, KPIs, and all information that are needed to make better decisions. So this is how we combine business insights with automation in Adonis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zbigniew. And then finally, we'll have Simon from Trisotech, who will show us the execution in the Trisotech platform.
Hi again, everyone. Hi, Denis. So yeah, I'm going to talk about how easy it is to transform the to-be process that was created today into our digital automation platform, which is an API-first platform. And basically, I did a little bit of cheating, to be fair. I created some data types and also mapped some operations, such as my connector to Microsoft Outlook, to make sure everything can run within 2 minutes today. But those are pretty easy tasks that can be completed. And once this is done, I can just cloud publish my process into our service library, from which you can host as many microservices based on BPMN or DMN as you wish. It generates automatically an API for the EU bank process that we created together that has functionality to start process, manage the instance, and interact with the data. But more importantly, for now, it creates automatically an interface that I can interact with my process and just show you a little bit how it works. So when I launched this process, where I'm sorry, Denis, but I'm applying for EU bank on an architect position. So when I run this, the person at HR will receive my information, and I'm also giving you as a reference. I debated whether or not I should put your real phone number there, but I didn't went there. So yeah, so once the process is started, the HR person will receive an email saying that they need to review my excellent job application for an architect position at the EU bank, and then they can go on with the process by entering some notes, checking whether or not I'm an interesting applicant, and go on with the process.
Thank you, Simon. So we just went through a series of demonstration of automation using BPMN from OmniTracker, Camunda, NoProcess, Signavio, BOC, and Trisotech. A caveat that I want to put here is these models were, yes, from the actual diagram that was created by the group, but each tool did what we call a platform-specific model version. That is, they took the BPMN generic model that was interchanged and created and augmented it with specific action and data structure and data source so that they could automate in their platform. But it's, as you could see, each tool had a different way of doing it, but it's usually a very simple process of doing this mapping to a platform-specific model. For those interested, you can find the work of the Model Interchange Working Group is completely open and transparent. It's available on the web. You can go to our GitHub, and there you'll find the results of all the testing of all the different tools that participate over the years and still continue to participate in ensuring a better interchange between the tool, and you can see the results are available there. And this is basically our demo for this year of the interchange we're using BPMN. I'd like to also maybe bring up that there are also some sister and cousin standards that exist at OMG. In particular, we have the DMN standard, the Decision Model and Notation standard. We also have the Case Management standard, which is CMMN, the Case Management Model and Notation standard. And there's also a really big effort that's going on for the last couple of years, which is called BPM Plus Health, which is the health industry basically working at introducing and integrating the BPMN, CMMN, and DMN standard into the healthcare industry. So those are all different work efforts that I encourage you to come and see at OMG. So Meg, I will now pass it back to you for the questions if you want to do a little bit of the question and answer. Again, we invite people to use the hand raising feature if you want to ask live question, and we'll give you the mic for that.
Okay, thank you, Denis. And thank you to all the presenters that participated in the demo. It was terrific. We do have some questions submitted in the question box, so I will start with them. One question is, are we able to access this tool for free? So are there any trial offers, I guess, on BPMN modeling tools?
So there are different tools that are free, different tools that are open source, and different tools that are private or proprietary. So different vendors will have different offers. Some vendors even have free version of tools. Some vendors have free and paid version, and some vendors only have paid version. So you have to basically shop around. Admittedly, there are over 280 companies that claim to have BPMN tooling. So there's a lot to shop around, but you can find Yes, free. You can also find free Visio stencil if you're using Visio that you can use, and there are some proprietary Visio tools that are also available.
Thanks, Denis. And there was another question that I think had to do with how your demonstration was conducted. It asks, is the step simply to drop into Dropbox, or is there an export via, for example, XMI prior to dropping?
Yes, so there is an export of the BPMN file format. In this particular case, we're using the XML serialization. So every time somebody was modeling, they were exporting into the XML serialization, the BPMN file, into the Dropbox, and then the other person was picking it up from there. So there's two possible serialization with BPMN. There's the XML serialization, and there's the XMI serialization. The XML is the one that seems to be the most popular among the vendors participating in the BPMN model interchange working group.
Thanks, Denis. This question says, this refers to the BPM plus health. How does the standard extend into the various runtime open source BPM plus health machines in the marketplace?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. It's a good question, but so if you're referring to other standards such as the HL7 standards like Fire and CDS Hook, etc., there's a lot of work between the HL7 and OMG into integrating all the standards together so we can better integrate and work together. So there's a lot of work. And the BPML group, which is also an open group for people to participate, is working very hard at setting best practice. And there's an actual field guide on how to apply these standards in the healthcare setting particularly. So we invite you to join there and participate in that group.
Okay, thank you. This question is, how easy or hard is it to convert BPMN diagrams to SysML activity diagrams?
Again, that depends on the tooling. So depending on the tooling, some vendors will have that capability right within their tool. So they'll offer different standard modeling integrated. And so that will be done right within the tool. In terms of tools that are standard specific or more restrained into their number of standard they support, it really depends on their import capability that are specific to the tool. So that becomes very tool specific.
Thank you. This question says, I noticed that when the process was imported into Signavio, the process flow was slightly distorted. Is that the only distortion that can occur, or do we expect major distortion between tools?
I'll let Philip answer this question, give a chance to everybody to speak a bit.
Yeah, thank you. Or maybe turn my camera back on. I mean, obviously, I mean, it's import-export is usually a hard topic. So, you know, depending on which vendor it comes from, sometimes we do see some different issues. Different vendors have different problems. This particular one just actually recently occurred because we, you know, fixed the bug and introduced a new one. So we're actually going to fix that very soon. But yeah, it's hard to answer that question in a general way. There will always be little glitches and you know, all of the vendors. It's not a perfect world, but it's hard to say, you know, make it understand. In general, at least all vendors participating in this working group here, as you saw, this was the only glitch we had, you know, and we're going to turn that off very soon. So it varies from vendor to vendor, but I guess all the ones that are present here already have a very high level of quality there. I can definitely say that.
Yeah, and Signavio is very active in the group too, in terms of improving all the time. So that's why we do this capability demonstration every year, is we try to broaden the spectrum of things that we test and to improve, and all tool vendors to improve what their work is doing.
Might be worth, if I could just jump in there, saying that over the years, if you've been watching these demos, the number of glitches is definitely on the way down. So we feel like we're doing some good work.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. There are a lot of notations in BPMN, and most of them can give the same function. we need a reference as business analysts to explain what is the best situation to use each notation. So that's, I guess that's not really a question, but can you comment on that?
Yeah, certainly. So the standards, all these standards, whether it's BPMN, CMMN, or DMN, are standards that provide you with expressiveness. Think of it as a language. So there's different way of writing a text, and not two people will write the text the same way, although we're using the same language. The same is true with diagrams or models using these standards, is that it's possible for a modeler to exercise his own artistic side or creative side into creating the model that he thinks best reflects the situation. So what we started seeing, though, is that different regroupments and different organizations started having what we call their method and style. In particular, Bruce Silver is famous for having written the BPMN method and style, the DMN method and style, and the CMMN method and style, in which he proposed a particular method and style of modeling so that most people doing the models will come to the same kind of model. And different organizations have their own guidelines and their own style so that they restrict the way in which things are expressed so that they can be pretty much similar. And in particular, we were talking of the BPM Plus Health. The field guide of the BPM Plus Health offers some guidance into how, for the context of BPM Health, how to model things in a systematic and structured way.
Thank you. Could you comment on how uniform the outcomes are from the varied designers and executions? And is there a way to test the execution to determine which is best practice?
We haven't tackled, so in the BPMN model interchange working group, we haven't tackled execution yet. We're still working very hard on the diagram interchange and the hidden attribute interchange. The automation is still platform specific to each vendor. So it is most likely that an executable model will have to be recast with what I was calling the platform specific model. So you can have the same model with all the behavior and all the hidden attribute, but the specific connection to application and actions are done, that binding is done very specific in every environment. So unfortunately, to do multiple tests, you have to create a multiple platform specific model to execute.
If I may,
yes, please.
If I may add something. The important thing to say is that since each vendor do correct serialization of the models, when you specify a model to be executable in one engine, and you specify the same model, you export it, and you make it executable on the other engine, it is still executable on both engines. It stays the same because the different tools keep the hidden attributes of every tool.
Yes, thank you. That's a very important point. Thank you, Benjamin. In fact, BPMN has the capability of interchanging all those extensions that are created by the vendors. So as you go along, these are carried through from model to model. So in fact, if we were to open one of the files that was created today, you could see the extension from all the different vendors in there, that each tool, part of the standard is to make sure that when what you take in, you give back in terms of extension so that you don't modify. So that way, as Benjamin mentioned, if you put the platform specific of one particular tool in there and you put the one of another tool, they'll both be there, and therefore they will be executable on both platforms. Thank you, Benjamin, for that point. Thank you.
Thanks, Denis. I have a question from Yvette Ipura, who has also raised her hand. I think she wants to ask her question live, so I'm going to unmute her right now. There?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Yvette. So I have a question about if any of the tools interface with, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the NLM's Value Set Authority Center, if you have an interface with that.
I'm not familiar with that particular tooling. I think you're talking about the value set, the healthcare value set environment.
Exactly, because we're planning to use this tool in our, like, it's a healthcare project, but I'm interested if any of the tools interface with that Policy Authority Center.
Yeah, so various tools will have various capability. I'm not here to promote any tool over one another, but there is work within the BPM Plus Health environment so that we can integrate with these kind of environments with both ontologies, healthcare ontologies like SNOMED and others, RX Norm. So there is work in the BPM Plus Health work group for that purpose, and different vendors have different capability of this integration. So maybe I invite you to participate in the BPM Plus Health group, where you'll find out more about that. Not, like I said, I'm not here to promote or push any one tool over another.
That would be great. Thank you. And I have another question. So I saw some like radio buttons on the demo, and I'm just wondering if we can customize the labels for those buttons rather than true or false. Can we customize like yes or no or something like that?
Yes. Again, various tools will deal with that in various ways, but most tools allow you to have the form building or the capability, the low code or no code environment in which you can create the form that you want and the way you want things displayed, independent of what's on the actual model. Others will enforce what's on the model exactly in the same form. So again, it's very dependent on tool, but most modern tools have the capability of adapting the form or the interface to your reality.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Yvette.
Thank you, Yvette.
I'm going to move back to the question box for a moment. The question, how extensible are the different solutions and which languages are supported for individual implementation?
How extendable are each? Sorry, can you repeat the question?
It says, how extensible are the different solutions and which languages are supported for individual implementations?
Again, that's a broad question. Different tools have different support. Some tools support many standards. Some other tools support only one standard. So it becomes very, very specific. In terms of extension, if we're talking very specific about extension, BPMN, as was mentioned, as was brought up by Benjamin, has an extension mechanism where we can add to it, augment the language with various extension, but those become very vendor specific. Although the other vendors will take those in and return them back, but the extension become very vendor specific.
Thank you. That might lead into this next question, which says, can you exchange models between tools after adding the specific engine attributes?
Yes, yes. That's a big part of our interchange working group, is to make sure that is done, and so that we have the benefit that each tool brings, because each tool will bring different capabilities and benefits, and we want to make sure that the interchange respect that augmentation or extension that are done.
Thank you. Is there a verification?
Meg, before you carry on, maybe I can ask the other panelists to turn their camera on and start answering a few questions. Maybe we'll call on other people to be the question answering person. So Tim, do you want to take the next question, please? And we'll just go round robin on this.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Meg.
Question is, what are some of the open source tools used in the execution automation of BPMN?
You're muted.
Can you unmute?
You're still muted, Tim. So you had the answer there.
Yeah, so there are a number of open source tools. Our own stuff from No Process is open source. We work with the Camunda and the Flowable and indeed activity execution engines, as well as layering on some of our own stuff in ways that we think made it a little easier. So there are quite a number of range of answers there.
Okay.
Thanks.
There's probably others that would want to chip in on that as well, I guess.
Niall, do you want to take the next question?
The next question is there a verification process of compatibility with Tool Smart Interchange module?
See, this is like a perfect question for Denis. I'm sure he's really he's really annoyed he didn't get this one. Yeah. So yeah, after this particular, this demo is a part of being able to say that instead of having two individual tools compared to say now these connect, we're verifying the standard itself. It's a far better system. So what's going to happen is you're going to be able to see at the end of this a lovely big sheet that's going to have the vendor, if they export BPMN and import BPMN, and the capabilities of those, because there are tools out there that will go halfway, like all the tools here, both import and export. There's a whole bunch that will only let you import them, but you'll never get them back out as BPMN. So part of this group is as well verifying that we don't just suck the stuff in, we can also transfer among other tooling. And I think the report that's created from this group is a good place to start if you're looking for perfectly compatible tooling.
Thank you, Niall.
Okay, Philip, you want to take the next question?
Okay. Are there switch to JSON or XML to remain as a standard? I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Can you repeat the question? I'm not quite sure I got that.
Yes, I'm not sure. I think there might be a word missing. Are there plans to switch to JSON or XML will remain as a standard? So,
okay. I actually don't have any knowledge on that. So we're currently on XML. I don't think there are any plans to switch to JSON. I know some tools use that internally. We, for example, do use JSON internally, but it's not really as good as XML in my point of view as an exchange format. You can also validate JSON, but I think the XML tool chain is a lot more mature in that sense. But I don't know, Denis, if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, no, I saw that you went into the religion side of this, so I won't step there.
No.
So right now there are no plans, but as Phil mentioned, many, if not most tools have some usage of JSON and even maybe for interchange as a side interchange, but the official interchange format is XMI and XML as of today. Now, further version of the standards may address this, but right now it's not on the deck. Simon, you want to take the next question?
Make it easy, please.
all right. Well, I take them as they come. Now that there are so many vendors involved in the demos, are you maintaining a live catalog of the vendors who have achieved interoperability? For example, showing who has execution capabilities or not, etc.
Okay, so we do have a catalog online on the MIWG site. Denis showed quickly a screenshot of it. It shows all the vendors that have submitted test result in the past years. Yeah, thank you, Denis. But the BPMN MIWG interchange group focus more on the modeling side, so you will not find anything there about execution, but you could have a look there at who's compliant with BPMN. A good portion of those offer automation or have partnership with automation as well. So that's a good reference. It's on the BPMN MIWG. If you just Google BPMN MIWG, you're going to find this table pretty easily.
Okay, thank you, Simon.
Okay.
Gabrielle, you'll take the next question, please.
Yes.
All right, Gabrielle. The question is like more of a statement. I would like to see customization of the elements such as color, size, etc. I would like to see, oh, it's just repeated. I would like to see customization of the elements, such as color, size, etc. So do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, so as you could see in the demo, and also Denis said it at some point, we all have different colors and different styles, and there isn't a specification. It's not present in the specification the exchange of this kind of information. But us as a group, working group, we developed an as I can say, a side standard that can be used and together with BPMN to exchange this kind of styles. So there is the colors of the node and fonts, font type, font sizes. So if for the vendors that implement this kind, also this standard, you can also exchange those information. And I don't know if Denis wants to add something.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Gagné, do you want to answer the next question, please?
Sure.
Okay, the next question says, is sharing process instances within the scope? This means a PSM can be executed partially on one platform and then exported to resume its execution on another.
As far as I know, this is not a part of the specification. I think Denis could tell a little bit more. However, probably it would be possible to automate various parts on various engines and make them work together on base of, for example, REST APIs or things like this. But I think Denis can tell more.
No, so you're quite correct, Gagné. So the specification as it stands or as it's implemented right now across the market does not allow to have an instance, a partial executed instance, to be migrated to another engine, although there is possibility of integration. So those of us that have a little bit more gray hair will recall the WFMC standard, which had 5 interface, and one of the 5 interface was the engine-to-engine interface. But that's part of the WFMC standard, but not part of the BPMN standard. Marianne, you want to answer the next question?
Sure.
Question is the interface for calling delegates from service tasks part of the standard? Just wondering how Java delegates would be shared between tools/platforms.
I think, Denis, I don't know the answer of this question. Could you help me?
Sure. So fundamentally, again, we're pretty deep into the execution and the platform. So depending on the platform that you're using, there will be different operation that can be called, and whether they use a direct calling pattern or a reverse pattern of subscription, again, is dependent on each engine. So that is very engine dependent. So Marianne, maybe you can take the next question again.
Yeah, I hope I can answer the next one.
The next question is, it seems like the drawing/model is usable within each tool, but for a very large workflows, is it a lot of work to get the execution working in a different tool?
Yeah, I think that's also depending on how the execution is done in each tool, but as far as I know, each tool is capable of also executing large processes, not only just small processes, and yeah, the execution is really depending on the tool itself.
And the conversion work going from the platform independent version of the model to the platform specific version of the model is usually quite fast, because by then the platform independent model is a very tight definition of the behavior as you know, in BPMN, you can also model the data, the information with data object and data store. So by the time you're going to the platform specific, you have a lot of constraint and specification of what's needed. So the mapping is then very quick, you know, whether one tool will use an operator on Outlook for sending email, or another tool will have an IMAP type of interface. That's where the differentiation is in the mapping, but it's usually very quick to map. I'll let Chris answer the next question, please.
Well, I'll do my best.
Hey, Chris, I'm going to give you a live question. Dan Duquette has his hand raised and he has submitted a question. So I'm going to, Dan, if you are still there, I'm going to unmute you for your question. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What I was wondering, you showed a sample of migrating a process instance from an existing version of the process model to a newer version of the process model. using a kind of a migration plan. But I'm wondering from a more from a data conversion point of view, if you're trying to migrate a legacy system to start using BPMN process models, is there a kind of a standard approach for creating process instances that are mid-flight? Like, you know, if you've got like a process that was being used off of another system that didn't use BPMN, and now you are, and you've got, you know, a particular application process that's in the middle of the process instance.
I'm not aware of any standard existing to do that, and it might be really hard to do because of the differences between different tools that you could use to execute a process. Well, there might be such a thing. I don't know. Anybody else?
So
fundamentally, I guess to start midway. Yeah.
So fundamentally, to do this, you'll require to do some process mining. There's a field of the process modeling that is called process mining that allows you to go and pick up from the logs the structure of your working system, and a lot of different tools will reinterpret that process mining into BPMN. So if you have non-BPMN system with process mining, you could identify the structure of the process. Once you have your BPMN version of that process, then you would have to do some reconciliation of the running instance to the structure. It would be a complicated endeavor. So usually most organizations do some process mining to get started in BPMN and have their start, and then we'll carry on in BPMN, and then the switch will be more on a date base than on an instance base. They'll say on the 30th of June, all our work is migrating from the old legacy system to the new BPMN system.
Yeah, I see. And so like your old processes, you kind of run them out in the legacy version and eventually migrate over. Okay, no, that's a great answer. Thank you.
Another way too is the modern approach is also the quote unquote microservice. I'm going to use the buzzword. The microservice approach, which is to wrap portion of your legacy system in a wrapper, expose this via an API, and then your BPMN engine can call that API and still run on the legacy. So you can, you know, sometimes we cannot get rid of the legacy, or we don't want to get rid of the legacy. They're the only system that actually worked for 30 years. So, but then this approach is taken where you cut your legacy application in pieces if you can, and you wrap those with APIs and reuse them into the BPMN environment.
Yeah, we're migrating. We're actually using BPMN and CMMN in a system, and we will have case models, cases that could be running for years at a time that we need to migrate over. So it's that type of a data migration that I'm trying to wrap my head around, to take a case that might be 2 years in to a 4-year process or a 4-year case model. How do I take that data and pull it over? But it sounds like it'll be a very a manual exercise.
Most likely, given that you have a moving target coming in and a moving target going out, that could be quite complex. I'm sure some university people are jumping up and down on their seats and saying, "We can help, we can help."
Send them my way.
Okay, back to you, Chris.
Thank you,
for the
Dan.
next question.
Thanks.
Chris, remain on. You'll take the next one.
Okay. Do you see large organizations selecting multiple BPMN vendors for their organization? Is this something that happens frequently?
Well, I'm not really aware of how many different tools people are using, but many other tools just cater to one specific use case, right? Like our BPMN modeler can only be used in Confluence. It's really, really helpful there. But if you want to model outside of that, well, you're stuck. So you need to use something else. And I guess many people, or well, companies will use different models depending on, or different tools to, well, do different tasks because they're good at different things.
In fact,
I'm not aware of anyone using like 20 at a time, or even the number we saw today, but 2 or 3 is pretty likely, I guess.
Yeah, as we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, BPMN 2 is 10 years old this week, and it's actually 2001, so it's 19 years old altogether when we started the first version in 2001. So most large organizations have multiple BPMN modeling tool, multiple BPMN execution tool. A lot of them still have legacy XPDL execution environment and XPDL modeling environment. So it's quite normal for organization to have many of those. That work of interchange that we're doing is specifically for those contexts and also for helping moving forward in this context. Boris, you want to answer the next question?
Okay, thank you. I will try.
All right, Boris. Is the automation also standardized and interchangeable between vendors?
Automation itself is very specific for concrete platform where it runs, but it is perhaps not exactly the point, because with BPMN or any other standard, we speak more about semantics. And semantics is very valuable exactly in the sense that it can be projected to many execution platforms and can run there and interchangeable in this way. So semantics gives you ability to speak on the same language with many platforms, which gives it specific value. So it can be standardized on further execution level, but yeah, on modeling level, it's exactly very important because it can be projected further. I hope I answered in some way. Thank you.
Frank, you want to take the next question, please?
So Frank, this question just wants to know more about what is the BPMN standard? What is the standard being referenced?
Cool. I hope I got the question. The BPMN standard is, I would say, defining, describing your process. I don't know.
Yeah. So the BPMN standard is the business process model and notation. So it's a standard that offers a visual notation for capturing business processes. So you can draw your processes, you draw what you want to happen, when you want it to happen, and how you want it to happen. And these drawings are actually interpretable by machines and by humans. And that's one of the big benefits of the BPMN, is that the diagram is quite readily understandable by human. And because the standard exists, each shape has a specific meaning and a specific behavior definition. And therefore, a computer is also able to read and understand the BPMN diagram and execute it. Frank, you want to take the next one again?
Yeah.
So the next question is, has anyone tried use of GPSS event generation for simulation and verification purposes?
For me, I don't know about such a usage, but maybe someone else.
Yeah, so in terms of simulation, there's a brother or a cousin, let's call it a cousin standard that's called BPSIM. BPSIM is a standard that was created at the WFMC that allows you to do event-driven simulation. So it's a discrete event approach to simulation that is done. And many different vendors also adhere to that standard for doing simulation of process and the different predictive works on there. Frank, you want to take the next question again?
Okay.
So this question is there a plan to implement not only business modeling standards, but also physical process modeling? Not digital twins, but for example, power flow, control flow, etc.
I don't know. I assume I have to press again.
So at the OMG, there's a totally separate group that exists that is about the Internet of Things. So when we get into physical flow and physical workflow, as you mentioned them, or that's where that work would find itself. It's within the Internet of Things, where there are that capability of actually having controlled system workflow modeled and executed. And in fact, many of the vendors that are participating there also use BPMN to define the logic of the flow, but the physical control is done via various physical devices.
Okay. Who takes the next question?
Frank, you want to take another crack at it? We'll get you to answer one.
Okay. This one asks, are there any pseudo standards emerging among the vendors on the execution side, for example, for schema management?
I think that for the schema itself is a standard, but execution that is not so not in our focus.
Okay. Tim, you want to take the next one?
Sure.
The next question I have, I'm going to give you a live question from the audience. This is from Mohammed Reza Davoudi. I'm not sure if I can see the full name in my window there. So I'm going to unmute you, Mohammed.
Hi, I have a question about Camunda BPM. I want to add, we want to use Camunda BPM for our organization. I have a question. Why Camunda doesn't support a rich form builder like other BPMS systems? And we should use our customizable task list, and the embedded Camunda form builder doesn't support a lot of fields and controls.
I think this one is meant for you, Niall, and not for Tim.
Yeah, I'll take it off your. Yeah, I'll take it off your hands. Yeah, so the main reason is because the vast majority of the people who use Camunda have very, very specific front-end requirements. We initially had about 2 or 3 ways of building a form. Actually, we have embedded forms that you can describe the form and have them part of the XML. We also can attach basic AngularJS and forms like that. But actually, because Camunda as a technology is moving more towards distributed systems and more towards microservices, it meant that we now are better at referencing existing front ends or referencing your own technology. So as opposed to trying to force people to use our chosen front end technology, we've actually moved more towards saying, well, listen, if you can choose what you want, and we're going to make integration really, really easy. So that's where most of our effort was spent. We probably do not intend to have a form builder of any kind. As I said, the majority of the people who use Camunda tend to already either have a front end they want to integrate with, or they have very specific technologies in mind they want to use, and we don't want to get in the way of that.
So we'll give it a try again, Tim.
Okay, next question. Does BPMN support dynamic workflow where at runtime the workflow morphs based on data?
So I think the right answer to that is to say that BPMN is really aimed at the modeling ahead of time. Various of the engines do have dynamic capabilities, and Niall showed you one that would migrate instances. There are other tools as well that have APIs to actually augment the BPMN process in flight. Obviously, it gets quite interesting if you want to take away things that are in flight. But yeah, so I think that that's probably something that doesn't really speak to the standard per se. Probably the bit of advice I would give is to use something like a CMMN case tool, so that the bits, so you can use process fragments, small chunks of stable process modeled in BPMN attached to a case, and then you can attach new ones as and when that becomes necessary using CMMN. So yeah, that would be my solution to that.
Simon, you want to take the next question, please?
Sure.
The next question says, we have seen a single model developed and demonstrated. How will models with sub-processes migrate the sub-process data?
That would be more of a question about what Neil demoed directly, which was the migration of sub-process, but I can answer the question generally. So in the past, we've done different demonstration where we had sub-processes, but this year we focused on 3 different processes instead of 1 with different sub-processes. So sub-processes are first-class citizen in BPMN, and there's no additional challenge if you introduce BPMN inside of your model. It just, it's one of the base construct of BPMN, so there's no additional challenges associated with that.
Okay, thank you. Zbigniew, you want to answer the next question?
Yes,
So
please.
the next question.
Make it business oriented.
Well, the audience member is asking, what does the Triple Crown mean? How do the 3 standards interconnect, which I assume the BPMN, CMN, and DMN standards?
In general, I think that this question could be answered perfectly by Denis, because this is a term that we are using very heavily in Trisotech marketing. But maybe I will give a brief overview. So Denis, please extend. So BPMN is very, very good in modeling processes, in sharing the common understanding of what happens in a process, but also it allows you to extend your diagrams with additional information using BPMN extension mechanism. However, BPMN is not silver bullet, it is not perfect for any kind of processes that you can imagine. So for example, if you have cases where everything is very, very heavily rules oriented, so in BPMN you would have hundreds of gateways, and it would make your diagrams look terribly. So instead of those spaghetti diagrams with lots of gateways, it may make sense to use instead some process part as BPMN diagrams, but also the logic behind the rules in DMN decision requirement diagrams, but also most likely in decision tables. And on the other hand, sometimes your process is not that well structured, and you cannot say that then happens this, then that, and then next element. And in those cases, you may want to have something more adaptive for your modeling. In this case, you can think of CMMN, which allows you to show how, what are the, let's say, suggestions for the people who will be running the process, but not necessarily giving them step-by-step directions, because this is very, very heavily based on their knowledge. I know that there is also very nice description of how it works in the field guide for BPMN plus health. So Denis, please tell more about this. This would be my simple answer.
No, it's quite the right answer. Fundamentally, the notion of the Triple Crown is that the 3 standards are complementary to one another, each with their separation of concern. BPMN for processes that are more predictive and prescriptive, and CMMN for processes that are more adaptive, and DMN for decision. So the whole idea is that within a process, you can call a decision made in DMN or a case in CMMN, or in CMMN, you can call a process in BPMN, as Tim was talking earlier, or a decision in DMN. And DMN, being a stateless type of standards for decision, tends to be more the one that is used by the others, although some people are starting to do some interesting extension to DMN too. So we'll see where that takes us. Philip, you want to take the next question? We're probably going to be our last question, because I think we're at the end of our time.
We are running out of time. So I will give this last question, which is very general. It's someone who I assume is a student, says, I would like to enrich the body of knowledge of BPMN. Are there any master's thesis topics or suggestions in reserve or known gaps to share? So he's looking for that information.
I'm not aware of any specific master's studies only about this topic, but I know that it is heavily included in a lot of different kinds of studies. Me personally also studied at an institute that has a quite high focus on this, where one chair was focusing on process technologies. Yeah, other than I'm not aware that there's a specific study just for that.
There's quite a large body of knowledge around BPMN for the 19 years that we mentioned. So there's a series of conferences called the BPM conference, and those conferences have been studying BPMN and extension to BPMN and benefits to BPMN quite extensively. Many universities have done a lot of research around BPMN, so the body of research around BPMN is quite extensive. We're probably talking of thousands of articles and probably quite a few hundred master's and PhD theses. In fact, some of the products on the market are extension of PhD theses from some people. So it is quite an extensive field of research.
If I may jump in,
yes.
I would suggest also taking a look at the BPMN handbook available on Springer, which is called The Fundamentals of BPM, for example, by Professor Marcelo Rosa from University of Melbourne. If you're interested in processes and in BPMN, make sure to read this handbook and follow those scholars that wrote it. I am not aware of any handbook which is used in academia which is more comprehensive and better. And I think till the end of June, Springer offers it for free. So it is a good chance to use it.
Yeah. Thank you, Zbigniew, for this. So back to you, Meg, for the closing remarks.
Yes, well, again, I want to thank all the participants and vendors for this presentation. This was worked remarkably well, so congratulations. And for the questions that we weren't able to get to live, we will try to follow up with via email. We appreciate you coming, and if you're interested, again, as I said at the beginning, about learning more of OMG and how you or your organization can help with the standard, please contact us, go to our website or send an email to our BD team, and I would welcome you to do that. Denis, are you currently the organizer? I mean, the presenter?
Yes, I am, or I was.
Okay.
You want me to make you presenter, or?
Yes, I'm trying to just end our presentation, but I can't find the ability to do that on my, so I don't think I'm the presenter.
Okay, I can stop the